Welcome to the Phosphine Catalogue, number 15034. We see light where others see only darkness. I would like to extend a warm invitation to those interested in Jungian symbolism to a modest exhibition at Rossetti House and Studios on the 31st of December to ring in the new year. A small collection has been curated by friends of the catalogue, Rachel Stevenson and Ola Hawthorne. I will be attending. Naturally, I live there, and will be most pleased to greet readers, clients, patrons and friends of the catalogue as we enjoy the exhibit. RSVP to Hawthorne and Stevenson, Rossetti House, Flood Street, London. Our townhouse is modest, but by spilling out into the courtyard and studios at the back, I expect we will be able to accommodate all guests. Wine, spirits and harder refreshments have been graciously provided by Solomon Services of Fleet Street, and can be contacted for guise functions of all kinds. Carriages at 2 a.m, ambulances at 4, wheelbarrows at 6, and hearses at daybreak. Morwenna, I hope you don't mind. I'm recording this from your room in the basement. I'm hiding from Aldwych. Long story, but we need to talk. Where are you? I've not even seen Nimue. She's usually out stalking the halls looking for mice or attention, or often as not scratching to be let out of a gallery. Even though I check for her every time before locking up, she always seems to find her way in. Your room looks very different from how it did when I stayed here. You've redecorated, I see. Where's all your cosy bedroom furniture gone? You had that cute side table and a dresser over there. I quite liked it all. There's just a bed and a plain wooden table here now. What's this stuff on it? It's all very familiar, somehow. Bundles of herbs, pebbles and stones, a mortar and pestle, a book, and, of course, why do you have a sword, Morwenna? Where is the intake paperwork for this? Oh, here it is. Lot number 39811. Wait, that's for... Oh, the painting's here. A watercolour and... Interesting. Well, I can do some work while avoiding Aldwych, and maybe you'll arrive while I'm doing it. Right. Lot number 39811. Steering the Craft. Goody, Shipton, late 1960s. A perfumed watercolour on cardboard, 10 by 8 inches. This piece is unframed and undated, and was painted on modern heavy-grade board. Given the subject, I suggest a date somewhere after 1960. Morwenna, remind me to ask Warwick to take a look at this, but I expect I'm right in my estimation. The fine cotton board has resisted the warping that often accompanies watercolours very well. However, the buyer may still wish to put it behind glass before displaying, to protect the other subtleties of this unique painting. The catalogue's framing surfaces can, of course, be arranged after a successful bid for a reassuringly good fee. The composition is of a small riverboat, perhaps 20 foot long, with a large, almost oversized white sail contrasting against the dark grey of the clouds overhead. A long wooden cargo crate is just visible ahead of the mast, along with 3 people silhouetted against this sky. 2 sitting in the body of the boat, and 1 on the tiller at the stern. The passengers in the centre almost blend together as one, but for the tall, pointed hat that the smaller of the 2 wears. The boatman at the stern is bent double against the storm that strains the sail and seems to chase the boat, almost enveloping it in spilled dark ink from above. The watercolour paint is notably fragrant. In addition to the top notes of juniper, sage and rose, I detect undercurrents of mandrake root and perhaps... Well, there's no mistaking the coppery tang of blood in the water. Morwenna, I am afraid of Aldwych. I rather think now that he did kill Rhys Howell, or had him killed, or something. He seems a little too happy about the acquisition of Howell House and keeps mentioning all of its treasures. I didn't want to say this in my office, or even in the vaults. He's always barging in and making demands about the play. It's like he owns the place. But here, in your room, I feel a darn sight warmer if the furnace was lit. It's freezing down here. Where's the coal? The bucket's empty. Oh. Where have you been sleeping, Morwenna? Everything's not as it seems. As usual. Certainly, Aldwich's play, his reimagining of Sweenor Drag. There's definitely magic of some kind happening. I can tell you that for now. It's become almost routine. Every rehearsal, we're dragged into the world more and more. I had wondered why we'd not seen any props or costume or anything like that. It's clear to me now. We won't need them come the opening night. We'll transport ourselves and, I suppose, the audience right into the world. Aldwich's world. I don't like the idea of that. I'd have quit the whole production if it weren't for Jo. She's so happy embodying Helena. The magic is wonderful to see. I've only seen her as happy in the garden after taking somnium. I know she must be bitter about having that glimpse of herself snatched away, now that the supply of the dream drug has dried up. I couldn't bear to take that from her. So I stay. We're all changing. Me too. In steering the craft, the three figures in the boat are hounded by the storm that they're unable to outrun. The water around the boat is as inhospitable as the dark clouds above it, the raindrops making the surface of the water sharp. But it's not all bad. The perspective the artist has chosen shows a little of the sky ahead of them, a patch of blue that the boat is heading towards, and this tiny scrap of light reflects in the sharp water. The design of the boat is clearly modern. The artist has captured enough detail for me to guess that it is fiberglass, not wood. But despite this, the high, pointed hat of the smallest passenger is a striking incongruity. One would expect to see such a thing at a Salem witch trial, not a European riverboat. The devil is always in the details. And the artist has added this detail to impart a specific meaning. Artists often select colours to signify national allegiances, subtle geometry to complement or invert power dynamics, and even fragrances to elicit the right emotions. The pointed witch's hat remains impossibly in place despite the turbulence of the storm that threatens them, and we may infer some attitude of resilience or resolve from it. Resolve that may well be needed. The sailors are not on a happy voyage. On close inspection, I believe that a coffin lies in the keel of the boat in front of the passengers, secured with chains. The craft is being guided through the storm, but what other craft is being steered here? Did the three survive the maelstrom? And the boat? And what of the fourth passenger?
Hi folks, Tris here, writer of the Phosphine Catalogue. I do hope you love our show. If so, you might be interested to know that there are more episodes available on our Patreon. Between seasons, when Jude is away, Warwick Blackwood is curator, played by yours truly, and he has a very different attitude to curation. Membership starts at just £3 a month, and for your support of our independent production, you'll get episodes a week or so ahead of the public feed, and at higher tiers, the bonus Blackwood episodes, concept art, free stuff from our store, and even your name in the credits. No matter how you support Wolfie and I, even if it's just spreading the word to your friends, thank you so much for making this show possible. Okay, let me turn over this cassette.
Lot number 2549. Gytrash. Mark Norman, 1925. Rogue taxidermy of an unknown animal. The Catalogue is pleased to bring to auction a remarkable piece presented by Coker and Lilly's taxidermists of Clerkenwell. Taxidermy is not commonly seen within our pages or in our vaults. However, we sell artwork, and with a little creativity and imagination, dead flesh and skin can naturally be art. The form has officially been recognised since the last great exhibition of 1851, where a judge remarked that the impressive installation will go far towards raising the art of taxidermy to a level with other arts which have hitherto held higher pretensions. However, that particular Victorian taxidermy was, sadly, rather flammable, along with the rest of the exhibition. Taxidermy as artwork, rather than preservation, is known in the industry by the name rogue taxidermy, which I will forgive the slightly judgmental implications, as I do like the way that sounds. Don't you, reader? The paperwork that I have here in my office shows that prior institutions have categorised it as a study skin, where the carefully butchered animal's appearance is perfectly preserved, but not the shape. This type can be found in museums, veterinary schools, and very occasionally teaching hospitals. This piece is an example of a chimera, an assemblage of other animals and man-made materials into something new. Examples over the years have included various dinosaurs, dragons, and hoaxes that were made to fool the gullible, such as the Fiji mermaid, the German Wolpertinger, but notably not the platypus. However, in creating this animal, I do not believe the artist set out to mislead, but to inform. Coca and Lilies has provided the following description in typically dry style. The full grey skin with head mount, having glass eyes and mounted agape, with limbs rampant on black cotton backing with brown felt trim. 4 foot nose to tail, 2.5 to cross forelimbs, and 2 foot ground to shoulder. In short, reader, the animal is approximately the size of a dog, the shape of a dog, but it is most certainly not a dog. Observing this impressive lot in my office gives me a mild feeling of impending doom, not least because it rather resists physical description. The mouth gapes a little too wide. The overlarge goat-like glass eyes seem to glow from within, and the fur itself has less of the texture of animal hide, but more of shadow made material. The catalogue advises potential buyers of this unique specimen that they will require a government import permit if they're to declare the item in any capacity, as it does not officially reside in this country. This is the responsibility of the buyer alone. Sorry, Morwenna, I know that was a bit short, but I need your help. Morwenna, you know things, right? You'd tell me, if I explained... Look, could you identify someone? Something? I just don't know. I'd better just tell you what happened. It was Jo's idea. I shouldn't have let her talk me into it. She was rather interested in my description of our housemate, Edward Porter's weird earth-covered room, with paintings covering all the walls like wallpaper. She'd never spoken to the man before, nor ever seen him, so she was fascinated. Jo and I often eat dinner together when her partner, David, is working late at the Savoy. Employment is a rather new thing for the man, of course. I sometimes wonder if he enjoys his new job. I asked Jo once, and she dodged the question, which told me what I needed to know, I suppose. Families can be so cruel, can't they? Anyway, Jo badgered me with question after question about what was inside Edward's room, the paintings, the strange malleable darkness, and especially about the furniture. I told her I saw a bed, a table, and could remember very little else, apart from the visions and the music Edward played for me. "You didn't see a coffin, did you?" she said, eyes wide. "Morwenna, you should have seen the stupid girl. practically wetting herself with excitement. I told her no coffins, no crucifixes, no ravens, no wolves, or anything of that ilk. No, Joe said, then added, he wouldn't have a crucifix anyway. Morwenna. This is all to explain why, just after lunchtime, I was standing behind Jo, watching her break into Edward's studio, in the courtyard behind the house. I could not disabuse her of the certainty that Edward slept in a coffin, and if it weren't in his room, it must be inside his studio. Each of the 7 rooms in the house is allocated its own brick studio, accessed through the archway under Ola's room at the front of the building. The studios are on the right side of the courtyard, with some rather dilapidated old wooden stables on the left that we don't use. Edward's studio is between Joe's and mine, though I don't go in often. All of Edie's supplies are there, and I can't bear to touch them. The lock yielded to Joe's hairpin after a minute, and she opened the door and stepped through without a glance back. Morwenna, I followed the poor girl in. I know I shouldn't have, and I wish now that I hadn't. The large 2-storey studio room was almost identical to mine, whitewashed to reflect the diffuse sunlight from the large north-facing windows, which meant there was no mistaking the coffin in the centre of the room, propped up on 2 wooden sawhorses. Joe looked at me with eyes wide and pointed with both arms at the casket as if to say, "What did I tell you?" I couldn't quite believe my eyes. Joe, lacking any self-preservation instincts it seemed, crossed the room and stood over the coffin. After peering over it for a moment, she looked back and beckoned to me, pointing at it. I glanced back at the safety of the courtyard, took a deep breath, and closed the door as quietly as I could and joined her. The coffin was made of rough, untreated wood, and to my great relief it was nailed shut. Joe pointed at a metal plaque on the top. At about heart height, I guessed. Whatever iron or steel it was made of had entirely corroded over with brown, flaking rust. "I can't read the name, can you?" Joe whispered to me, the noise startlingly loud in the dead, silent air. Before I could respond, I was suddenly aware of the sound of water echoing around the bare room, and the smell of wet earth and copper filling my lungs. Joe's eyes went wide as she saw something behind me. Someone behind me. I turned, slowly, though it felt like my skin wanted to stay in place. There stood, of course, in a miasma of petrichor, Edward Porter. "I'm sorry," I began, but he spoke over me. "Her name was Ornan," he said, head bent over the coffin, as he ran a clawed hand gently over the top of it. He was wearing the same misshapen dark suit as before, but water was running off it in rivers, out of his sleeves and under the jacket. I stepped back instinctively. Joe did the same, as the flood ran out over the floor like one of Sarah's paintings. I don't remember opening the door and escaping through the courtyard back to the house, but I must have, as my next impression is my muddy shoes on the tiles of the kitchen as I caught my breath. Joe wasn't with me, I realised with a fright. This morning before work I took David to Edward's studio, but is now empty. Joe is missing. David has gone spare. Morwenna, you know this world. Can you help us? Who is Edward Porter? What is Edward Porter? And where is Joe?
The Phosphine Catalogue is a Namtao production. The voice of Jude Francis Sharp is Wolfie Thorns, and the show is written and produced by me, Tris Oaten. For links to our merch store, the music, and Mastodon account, check out the podcast's website, phosphinecatalogue.com. To become a patron of the arts and get bonus episodes and other perks, it would be very kind of you to support us at patreon.com/Phosphine Catalogue. Thank you so much for listening. See you next time.